When you consult a physical map, you expect it to display the entire landscape. You rely on that document to guide your journey and inform your strategic decisions.
Right. You operate under the assumption that the map represents the complete reality of the terrain you are navigating.
Exactly. If a mountain or a valley exists, the map should indicate that topography clearly.
Indeed.
Imagine discovering that the map you utilize only displays 20% of the actual landmass.
That would be disastrous for navigation.
Absolutely. The remaining 80% remains completely hidden from your view. If you are a professional recruiter relying solely on published public labor data, you are essentially attempting to navigate blindly.
We are your hosts from the HireWire podcast.
Today, our objective is to examine the July 2026 labor market data. We want to translate those macroeconomic numbers into actionable strategy for your daily operations.
We will focus heavily on the reports provided by Bob Marshall. As you operate your recruitment desk, navigating these complex economic reports often feels overwhelming.
I understand that completely.
Right. However, Bob Marshall's decades of analyzing labor market data provide a very clear roadmap for your strategy.
We will follow a precise journey through this information today. First, we will explore the current artificial intelligence skills shortage. Then, we will identify the specific business sectors conducting the actual hiring.
Following that, we will reveal the underlying mechanics of the hidden job market.
Exactly. And finally, we will evaluate Bob Marshall's great insight into why the true unemployment rate for your target candidates is functionally zero.
We must begin by analyzing the skills shortage, specifically regarding artificial intelligence readiness.
The recent survey conducted by Indeed and YouGov presents a massive gap between corporate expectations and workforce capability.
The data reveals that 59% of employers consider AI native talent absolutely essential within the next 12 months.
Wow, 59% is a staggering majority.
It is. Furthermore, 45% of these organizations are actively seeking these workers at this very moment.
Those numbers represent massive employer demand, yet the supply side of the equation presents a stark contrast.
Indeed, it does.
According to that same survey, only 19% of job seekers consider themselves fluent in artificial intelligence applications.
19%.
Right. I observe a massive training deficit driving this gap. The survey indicates that a mere 32% of workers received proper artificial intelligence training from their employers.
Which forces the employees to find alternative methods.
Exactly. Consequently, 70% of workers are forced to educate themselves independently while performing their standard duties.
The demographic division within that data is equally illuminating. 35% of Generation Z workers consider themselves fluent.
And how does that compare to older demographics?
Well, compared to only 24% of millennial workers. This creates a generational skill disparity that recruiters must navigate.
I am struggling to understand the logic behind these corporate expectations. Employers demand immediate fluency but refuse to invest the capital necessary for employee education. It resembles demanding a commercial pilot to fly a completely new, highly advanced experimental aircraft.
Without providing the necessary resources.
Right, but refusing to provide a flight manual or any simulator time. Is this approach sustainable for major corporations?
Your skepticism is entirely warranted. The current approach is highly inefficient.
Because it demands impossible immediate adaptation.
Exactly. Because artificial intelligence fundamentally restructures the entire workflow rather than merely replacing individual workers, the talent demands are becoming exceptionally specific.
Organizations cannot simply hire a generic software developer anymore.
No, they cannot. The recent Staffing Industry Analyst report, authored by Craig Johnson and Amy Horvath, details this massive workforce restructuring. We are observing the rapid creation of entirely new, highly specialized roles.
Rather than merely listing those titles, we should examine the actual mechanisms of these new positions. For example, what functional purpose does a content engineer serve in a modern enterprise?
A content engineer operates as the vital bridge between human cognition and machine logic.
Fascinating.
They analyze how experienced human employees make complex decisions, and they map those mental processes into detailed functional schematics.
I see. So they translate human intuition into data.
Right. These schematics are absolutely necessary to train digital workers to replicate human reasoning accurately.
That role requires a unique blend of psychology and systems architecture. We also see massive demand for data center field technicians.
Which surprises some people.
Many individuals assume artificial intelligence exists entirely in the digital realm, but it requires massive physical infrastructure.
It absolutely does.
These technicians manage the physical reality of the technology. They install and maintain the specialized high-density server racks and advanced liquid cooling systems required to process the data.
Precisely. Additionally, the market demands forward-deployed engineers.
What distinguishes them from standard engineers?
These professionals embed directly within a client organization. They do not build generic software. Instead, they customize massive foundational artificial intelligence models to perfectly integrate with the specific proprietary workflows of that individual client.
That sounds incredibly complex. Finally, we must understand the full-stack agentic engineer.
Traditional software development focused on creating applications that humans would operate.
But the agentic engineer is different.
Entirely. The agentic engineer designs autonomous artificial intelligence agents that act independently. These agents communicate with other systems to complete complex tasks without direct human supervision.
Since these highly specialized technology roles require significant expertise and command massive salaries, we must identify where recruiters can actually locate the client demand for this talent.
Because major corporations are notoriously slow to adapt.
Right. So who is executing the hires?
This question brings us to the financial reality of the market, and we must introduce Bob Marshall's industry expertise regarding client targeting.
Let us review the ADP National Employment Report for July. The data indicates an increase of 44,000 private sector jobs.
However, the aggregate number is less important than the origin of those positions.
Drawing on Marshall's analysis, 71% of that new job creation,
Which equates to 31,000 individual jobs.
right, 31,000 jobs originated from small and medium-sized establishments.
To quote his fundamental conclusion for the industry, small and medium-sized client companies have historically been, and continue to be, the primary revenue source for contingency recruiters.
The Robert Half second quarter report reinforces that exact conclusion. They noted a general revenue decline of 2.8% across their organization.
However, their technology staffing sector is accelerating rapidly
Why is that sector defying the broader organizational trend?
because small and medium-sized businesses continue to operate with exceptionally lean organizational structures. As their strategic priorities advance, they require immediate capability.
They desperately need specialized AI-fluent talent to execute their initiatives.
Exactly. And they lack the luxury of time required to train a novice.
The compensation data from the ADP Pay Insights report reveals the financial consequences of this urgency. Job stayers experienced a 4.4% annual pay increase.
However, job changers secured a 7.0% increase.
That is a massive difference.
It marks the largest year-over-year compensation increase since August 2025.
I interpret this disparity as a direct financial penalty for employee loyalty.
That is an interesting perspective.
Organizations are essentially punishing their current, dedicated staff with stagnant wages while simultaneously paying a massive premium to acquire immediate specialized skills from the external market. This defies long-term strategic logic.
It appears punitive on an individual level, but the economic mechanism dictates this behavior. When severe supply constraints exist for critical skills, employers must inflate wages to attract external candidates who already possess those capabilities.
Time is their most valuable commodity.
Precisely. Developing an internal employee to the level of a full-stack agentic engineer requires years. Purchasing that skill externally provides immediate operational capability, justifying the 7% wage premium in the eyes of the employer.
If small and medium businesses are hiring aggressively and paying a premium for job changers, we must determine the actual inventory of jobs available to you, the recruiter, right now.
The public data conveys only a minuscule fraction of the narrative.
To comprehend the complete picture, we must evaluate the June 2026 JOLTES report, which is the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey.
The public data states that job openings remained steady at 7,400,000. Hires were recorded at 5,300,000.
Additionally, quits stood at 3,200,000.
We should clarify the significance of that quits metric for our listeners.
Economists utilize voluntary resignations as a primary measure of worker confidence. Employees rarely abandon their current position unless they feel entirely secure in their ability to secure superior employment quickly.
Exactly. 3,200,000 individuals, demonstrating that confidence indicates a robust labor market.
That is correct. But the most crucial number for our discussion is the 7,400,000 published job openings.
Applying Bob Marshall's legendary industry expertise to that figure fundamentally alters the landscape.
He emphasizes that this published number represents merely 20% of the actual available jobs in the marketplace.
20%. The remaining 80% are entirely hidden from public view.
Organizations fill these invisible vacancies through internal networking, industry word of mouth, or by engaging a professional external recruiter.
Therefore, the true number of available job openings is closer to 37 million.
37 million vacancies represents a massive opportunity for the recruitment industry, but it requires a strategic shift to access those roles.
It absolutely does.
I want to challenge the logistical mechanics of this phenomenon. How does a modern enterprise manage to hide tens of millions of vacancies from the public while continuing to function effectively?
Hiding a critical need seems counterproductive, as I know.
Right. Hiding a critical need seems counterproductive to resolving it.
It is entirely a matter of administrative risk mitigation. Consider the reality of modern human resources departments. When a company publicly publishes a vacancy for a highly compensated, specialized role.
Particularly any title containing the phrase artificial intelligence.
Exactly. They immediately receive thousands of applications from entirely unqualified individuals utilizing automated application software.
Reviewing those thousands of irrelevant resumes drains massive amounts of internal time and financial resources.
The administrative burden paralyzes the human resources department. By keeping the role hidden and relying on a trusted contingency recruiter, the company bypasses the administrative nightmare.
They only review candidates who have been thoroughly vetted, interviewed, and qualified by the recruiter for the exact required skills.
The recruiter acts as the essential filter.
That clarifies the logistical necessity of the hidden job market. However, a glaring contradiction remains.
What is that?
If a staggering 37 million actual job openings exist, economic logic dictates we should experience negligible national unemployment. Yet, the national unemployment figures broadcasted by the media suggest otherwise.
Bob Marshall's careful dissection of the statistics resolves this contradiction completely.
We can observe this contradiction in the July 2026 Bureau of Labor Statistics update.
The standard unemployment rate, commonly designated as U3, currently sits at 4.1%. Meanwhile, the broader U6 measure remains elevated at 7.9%.
We should explain the distinction. The U6 metric is crucial because it includes marginally attached workers and individuals working part-time for economic reasons.
These are citizens who desire full-time professional employment but cannot secure it, forcing them to accept temporary or part-time labor.
Furthermore, the civilian labor force itself has decreased by 1,318,000 workers since July 2025.
This massive departure stems from various factors. This includes an aging demographic entering early retirement, and individuals pursuing alternative, non-traditional income streams outside the monitored economy.
This departure has generated a historically low employment participation rate of 61.4%.
I recognize a significant statistical illusion operating within this data.
Please explain the illusion.
When a massive volume of workers departs the labor force, the denominator in the unemployment calculation shrinks. This mathematically forces the resulting unemployment percentage to appear smaller.
Consequently, the overall economy appears much healthier on paper than the underlying workforce participation numbers suggest.
Your observation identifies the exact flaw in relying solely on broad macroeconomic indicators. The media utilizes these broad numbers, which creates a false narrative for specialized professionals.
This is where Bob Marshall's great insight provides vital clarification for your daily operations.
The general U3 unemployment rate includes absolutely every sector, encompassing construction, retail hospitality, and government administration.
However, the specific demographic that you, as a contingency recruiter, target reveals an entirely different statistical reality.
According to his analysis, when we isolate the pertinent data, the unemployment rate for management, professional, and related workers is only 2.9%.
Furthermore, for college-degreed workers, the unemployment rate is a mere 2.7%.
While 2.7% seems incredibly low to the casual observer, macroeconomic theory dictates that this number actually represents a market with absolutely zero available talent.
I must challenge that statement. It sounds like an impossible absolute. From a purely mathematical perspective, how can a positive rate of 2.7% equal zero available talent?
To understand this mechanism, we must introduce the economic concept developed by Nobel laureate Milton Friedman, known as the non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment, frequently referred to as NAIRU.
Friedman's principle dictates that a state of absolute full employment inherently includes an unavoidable and natural unemployment rate of somewhere between 4 to 6%.
That implies that even in a theoretically perfect economy operating at maximum efficiency, absolute zero unemployment remains a mathematical impossibility.
That is correct. 5 specific structural sources of unemployment guarantee the rate never reaches absolute zero.
Consider the normal turnover of the workforce. An individual might resign on a Friday to commence a superior position 2 weeks later.
During that fortnight, the government classifies them as unemployed.
Economists term this frictional unemployment. They are not struggling, they are merely in transition.
That makes logical sense. Another category clearly involves the broader business cycle itself.
Right. When the economy contracts, organizations reduce their staff regardless of individual employee performance. We define this as cyclical unemployment.
We also face structural unemployment. This occurs when the skills possessed by available workers do not match the specific requirements of the available openings.
This connects directly to our earlier analysis regarding the artificial intelligence skills gap. Millions of workers possess outdated skills, rendering them structurally unemployed in a modernizing economy.
We must also account for seasonal unemployment, which predictably affects industries like agriculture or retail during specific times of the year.
Finally, there is surpluses unemployment. This condition arises when minimum wage regulations or union contracts force companies to maintain strict payroll budgets.
Forcing them to reduce total headcount to maintain compliance with mandatory wage floors.
Those 5 factors.
Frictional, cyclical, structural, seasonal, and surplus.
Exactly. They combine to create a permanent baseline of unemployment between 4 and 6%.
This framework aligns perfectly with Henry Hazlitt's economic principles regarding the gross domestic product.
The second quarter GDP increased by 1.5%.
Hazlitt teaches that maximizing production is the true economic goal of any successful nation. Employment itself is merely a necessary byproduct of generating that production.
We can now synthesize this entire macroeconomic analysis to reach Bob Marshall's ultimate conclusion.
Because the unemployment rate for college-degreed professionals is 2.7%,
which falls significantly below the 4 to 6% NIRU threshold established by Friedman.
recruiters are essentially operating in an environment of absolute zero unemployment for their target demographic.
This brings us to the ultimate mandate for the recruiter listening today. Based on Marshall's industry expertise, the directive is profound.
The candidates that you desperately need to fill these highly specialized roles are already employed.
They are generally satisfied with their current positions, and their organizations compensate them well.
Therefore, you must proactively market and recruit to entice these passive candidates into moving to new opportunities.
The historical methodology of relying on active job seekers for specialized technical or management roles is completely obsolete.
If you wait for a qualified candidate to submit an application, your client will remain unstaffed permanently.
This challenges the traditional recruitment mindset fundamentally.
Standard public job postings are entirely useless for this specific demographic. If the available talent pool is functionally zero, publishing an advertisement yields no results.
This reality requires you, the professional recruiter, to operate more like a highly specialized direct marketer than a traditional talent sourcer.
You must convince a secure, satisfied professional to disrupt their comfortable life for a superior opportunity.
Adapting your methodology to target passive candidates is no longer an optional strategy. It is a mandatory requirement for survival in this industry.
To summarize our primary lessons for the listener today, the artificial intelligence skills gap is generating highly specialized new roles, yet corporations refuse to train their existing staff.
Consequently, the true hiring power and the premium compensation for job changers lies heavily with small and medium-sized businesses.
Furthermore, the true job market operates largely hidden from public view, harboring tens of millions of unpublished vacancies to avoid administrative overload.
Most importantly, according to Bob Marshall's great insight, you are hunting in a market with effectively zero unemployment for the professional candidates you require.
Understanding this data empowers you to educate your clients.
When a hiring manager demands an immediate hire but offers below-market compensation, you possess the statistical evidence required to correct their expectations.
As we conclude our analysis today, I want to leave you with a final provocative concept to consider independently.
We have established that the traditional job opening is becoming obsolete due to the vast hidden job market and the zero unemployment reality.
If the traditional posting is dying, will the concept of the standard resume soon follow?
That is an excellent point to ponder.
As corporate roles become entirely dependent on dynamic, highly specific skills like artificial intelligence fluency, perhaps the static, paper document of a resume will completely alter. It might change exactly how candidates demonstrate their true value in the future.
A static document certainly fails to capture the dynamic capability of an agentic engineer. It is a fascinating prospect that demands careful consideration.
Indeed. We began our discussion today by imagining a map that only displays 20% of the terrain.
Hopefully, the data and economic principles we have examined have illuminated the remaining 80% of your map.
Allowing you to navigate the reality of this complex labor market with precision, authority, and confidence. Thank you for joining us.